What are you up to?
I'll just paint some minis.
Isn't it hard to paint those things because they're so small?
No, I'm used to handling small stuff.
Oh.
I'm in IT, so I use small tools all the time.
Oh. Well.
And besides, Infinity models aren't that much smaller than Warhammer.
So I was recently sent the latest batch of Infinity models called the Next Wave from Corvus Belli. And it made me think, maybe I should look a little deeper into Infinity. Because the last time I looked at it, the models are great. Everything about the game seems awesome. But for me, it just seemed like, oh man, this is a lot to learn, a lot to get into. And I wasn't super invested in it because I'm a huge fan of lore, and I didn't know anything about the lore, and I just thought, oh, it's kind of like cyberpunky, and interesting, but I had all these other things that I was just like, oh man, I really like these other things. But then they sent me this, and I thought, I gotta give it a shot, I gotta try. And I actually looked into the lore a little bit, and it's awesome. They have multiple full-length novels about the different factions in Infinity. The world that they have set up is really cool. I mean, it's a alternate, I don't even want to say an alternate, it's a future of what our reality could someday be. And it jumps not 40,000 years in the future, but a few hundreds from what I remember. And anyway, it's just really interesting how the world has gone. It's no longer countries and things like that, because these countries have gone out into space and they've taken over planets, and it's really cool how they have these different groups, like the JSA, the Japanese influence with samurai armor and things like that, and Pan-Oceania, which is basically English people, United States, Europe, and them combined together. It's the biggest group. They've got a lot of cool stuff. Really cool. But then they have these other factions like those from New Wave, which are the Combined Army. And the Combined Army is literally the aliens in this whole setup. They are the alien forces that have come into our universe because, and I might butcher this, but basically they made an AI that was supposed to tell them what to do with themselves. And when it learned everything that they had to give it, it basically was like, nope, I'm not telling you anything. You're on your own. And so they're trying to get other AIs and take over other species until they have enough knowledge that they can find out what their AI was doing in the first place and just kind of figured life out. And so it's a really cool faction because it's made up of basically every alien race, and if you look at the models from this pack, humans. And so it's the Combined Army. It's a combination of everything. And so I just thought it's kind of a cool group. I mean, they got dinosaurs, right? You can't go wrong with dinosaurs. And if any of you are watching my channel and kind of paying attention to the journey that I'm on with painting, you'll know that in my last episode, I taught myself kind of how to blend and to do glazing. And I was super happy with how it turned out, even though it was my first try. And I thought, I gotta try that on these models. And I thought, there's this fantastic model, the Juggernaut. It's this huge freaking just guy riding a alien beast that is just amazing. And I thought, oh, I want to paint that. But before I did that, I wanted to get my color scheme right. And I have been looking, and I knew I wanted to do a green and purple, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a bright green or a deep green, or a bright purple, or more of a crimson purple or something like that. And so I was like, I gotta paint a couple miniatures, and it took me a while, but I finally settled on one, and I'll show you how I painted it here in just a second. But because I settled on a paint scheme, I can now paint this guy. So if you're interested in seeing how that paint job goes, please like, subscribe, follow the channel. I'm all about painting. I'm all about making the tabletop experience fun and accessible to everybody, because honestly, I used to think these things were super hard, but the more I do them, the more I realize it's actually pretty easy and it's fun to do and it's great. So like and subscribe, follow if you want to see me paint the Juggernaut in a later video, because I'm going to, because I think it's a great model. And anyway, here, over to the painting. So first things first, I knew I wanted this to be green, and so I hit it with the darkest green that I had and went around it. And like I said, you just gotta base coat it and get that first coat out of the way. And you can see I'd already started kind of testing on the legs with blending and trying to get it to somewhere where I wanted it to be, but I knew that I wanted it to be green. And so first things first, just get that nice base coat, get it everywhere, even on the spots that are going to be lighter. You still need to get them with that first coat. You can change them later on, but the base coat should be a pretty simple thing to do and just get on it. And it doesn't even have to be great, because you're going to go around and highlight it later. And that's what I'm doing here. I just mixed my green with a little bit of an orangish yellow, okay, to brighten it up. And I started hitting the next place in. And again, you're not doing 100% of what you did before. This time you're going to try and do like 90% the second time you go through. And then once you get even higher brightness than that, you're going to do even less. And it's just kind of one of those things that you gotta judge as you go through, as to whether or not you are doing enough and getting that light everywhere. And you'll see as I'm painting this that I go over stuff and I go back and forth, and like there is no like technicality to this. Like I'm not strategically going from one spot to another. You know, I'm going through it, and I realized the boots were different colors and I didn't like it. And so I was like, all right, well, let's just blend this and just glaze it until we got them to the point where we like how they look. And then it was on to the purple. I had tried to use a really bright purple and mix it with this darker reddish purple, and it just did not want to mix. Like, I don't necessarily know why it was that way. It just did not want to mix. And so I thought, well, I really like this just dark, almost crimson, wine color. And I was like, I think it looks really good with the green. And so I started putting it down in all the places that I wanted to be. And again, this is just another base coat. And once I had gotten that on everything I needed, you can see here in my palette how I have my gradients from darker to light. I just moved to the next color. You don't need 20 of these. The more you have, the better the blending will be. That's the simple truth. But 4 or 5 is plenty good, in all honesty. And so I just moved up to the next color and started hitting, again, that 90%, 80%, whatever you want it to be. And you kind of need to focus on where light would be hitting the model. And so that's kind of what I tried to do as well, is when I moved on to my brightest color, is that I wanted it to be where the light would hit it. And so I'm doing that, a zenithal highlight, right, would show you where that is. You've already base coated over that a couple times. If you're lucky, you can still tell. But for the most part, you kind of just have to zenithal again yourself with the actual color that you're wanting to do, and just make that stick out as much as you possibly can while you're painting and going around. But remember to keep those shapes and things like that as well. So if you have like a rounded shoulder, make sure that your light source is rounded. Then once I was happy with, my blending from the 2 main colors, it was on to doing the straps and things like that. Just using, your normal brown. If you want to make it look scratched, you can. If you want to make it a little darker, you can just add black to it, or, even just a darker brown, and just kind of go around and add those pieces to it that bring it to life. Okay. And then it was on to the face. Now, faces, notoriously, it's something that everybody hates, but this one wasn't so bad. And you can't really see it here because I'm fantastic with my camera. But I went through it and just got all the places that the face needed to be colored. And then afterwards, I even tried to blend this a little bit with the nose and the brow and things like that, just trying to lighten it up and get it to the point that I liked. And then after doing the hair and the eyes, which are super awesome and fun and just a terrible experience every time, I moved on to the gun. Guns are simple. You can add color to them. You can do whatever you want to make the gun your own. I like to make them a solid color. With this, I just did a nice dark gray. And then after I do the dark gray all the way around, I generally come back with a gunmetal or a silver or even a boiler, black metallic, and just highlight those edges as much as I can. And once you've done it a few times, the brush will start to get dry, and then you can almost dry brush with your actual brush and get those little places in between that you want to pull out those highlights, and that's it. Then you base it and you're ready to go, and it looks fantastic. At least I think so. But obviously, if you notice me doing something wrong, please let me know. And this is the end result. Now, one of the things that I got to point out is that learning how to blend and how to glaze is, again, it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. And once you get it on your palette and you have that transition from one color to the other, it's super easy. And it's something that I thought was going to be super, super time consuming. I even said in my last video how it took forever, but that's just because I didn't know what I was doing. Once I had the colors laid out that I wanted and could go through them, yeah, you're doing multiple layers of each one. But if your paint's a little thin and that first layer isn't super bright or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're going to do 3 or 4 other layers on top of it. And it's easy to know if you're doing it right, because if you're doing it right, you can't see a flat line between the two colors. It's a nice transition. It blends over. And so it's just easy to know if you're doing it wrong or right. And every time you do it, you are painting less. And so every layer that you do becomes faster. So yeah, that base coat that you got to do, which is going to be sloppy and fast anyway, the second coat you do a little less, and the third a little less, and the fourth even less than that. And then you just have your highlights or whatever that's left, and it's done. And it looks so much better than just painting one color and doing highlights. I'm not trashing on you if that's how you paint, because it's how I've done it for 2 years. So I get it. But there is a better way. So try it out. Now, with that being said, and having given another good look at Infinity and realizing that the lore is better than I thought, the gameplay is better than I thought, the models are better than I originally thought, is there any game out there that you gave a second shot? And when you did, was it worth it? Were you happy that you gave it another shot and you love it now? Or did you just thought, I gotta try this again, and nope, I still hate it after 2, 3, 4 tries? Okay, so if that's the case, please let me know in the comments below. And thank you for coming here today. Thank you for watching my journey as it goes. And it's just going to keep getting better, and I'm just going to keep painting things, and hopefully I can share some of that knowledge with you. So stick around. And as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.